So today we're going to be looking at collaging in Photoshop using photographic textures. The first thing is to find your textures. So I use Google image search a lot, and when I do, I set it to large size, and you can alter the search parameters to make your searches more accurate or easy to find things. Let's have a look for free fabric textures here, just as a random thing. And as you can see, there's lots and lots of different things you can use for collage depending on what you need. And once you've got those, save them somewhere convenient, and then you can get ready to do the area collaging. What I'm going to do today is to look at, first of all, selecting areas using the magic wand tool and the quick mask mode, which you can get by pressing the W button for the magic wand and Q for the quick mask. So if we zoom in on this rather sweet young lady's hat up here, then if I go to the layers menu, you'll see that I've got three layers here. The top layer is a black line menu, and that's just a black and white drawing. And the problem with that is if you put anything underneath it, you won't be able to see it. And we'll be putting the textures underneath to make them look tidier. So the first thing to do is to change the layer mode to multiply. That's the fourth one down on the drop down list there. What that does, it keeps the white colour on that layer, but it makes it transparent. So we'll lock that layer to make sure that doesn't change. We'll go to the magic wand tool, and we will just click somewhere here. And when you click on one colour, the white, it'll keep going outwards until it reaches another colour. And as you can see, the marching ants line here shows that that's been selected. But you can also see there are little bits missing. So the larger bits, it's easy enough to just click on them like that. But anything smaller than about that size is beginning to get a bit too small. And there's another and much more convenient way of doing it, which is the quick mask mode. You can either press on this icon down at the bottom of the toolbar here, or you can press Q. And the first thing you notice is that your picture gets a pink area over it, and that pink area is basically anywhere that isn't selected. And the reason that the quick mask mode is so useful is because you can use it to add areas or remove areas from your selection that are really fine detailed. So if we go to the brush tool, and I'll just get my Wacom pen here, and you'll notice that when you do the quick mode, that this goes to black and white. And basically, if you paint the brush tool in white, it adds area to the selection. If you paint it in black, it removes area from the selection. Have a play with this, but it's basically really, really useful for adding areas of fine detail such as that. So I've just added those two, and if I press the Q button again to go out of quick mode, you can see that those areas have been added. Now, whilst those areas have gone up to the black line, if you were to just use that as a mask and to add your texture underneath, you might find that there was a little white line around between the two, like a gap between the black line and your texture. So to avoid that, what I'm going to do is go to the select menu, go to modify and expand, and I'm expanding it by 2 pixels. 1, 2 or 3 pixels is usually enough. And if you look, you can see that the line is now expanded under that black line, which means that the edge of the textured area will be under the black line, and therefore will be a nice and tidy abutment to it. So, just going to undo that. Select her hat, select, modify, expand. Now the whole area is selected. One of the things that you will want to do, and I really recommend you do, is that when you are using selection to make quick masks is to save your selections, especially if you've had to use the quick mask mode, because sometimes you get it wrong and you have to go back. So we'll call this one, put it in capital letters, hat, and save it. Oops. So now if I deselect it, I can go to the select menu, load selection, drop down, and hat. The most recent one is always at the bottom. As you can see, I've been practicing and I've done this loads of times now. So you can add that selection at any time. Get rid of it for the moment. Deselect. Go down to a layer underneath the black line menu. Now we're going to place our texture. So you go to the File menu and Place. And I've got a black leather fabric texture that I want to use for her hat. We'll place that. Photoshop whizzes away, and there it is. It comes up automatically ready to shape. So what we can do is move it around and basically make sure that it covers her whole hat, and you can shrink it. If you do this, be aware that because you're using a photographic texture that it will warp a little bit, but at this scale it doesn't matter. And once you've got it to the right size, shape and place, you press the tick up here or press return, thinks about it for a moment, and then places it. Now you'll notice that it's come out underneath, and that in the layer icon over here on the layers menu, there's a tiny little icon there, and if you move the cursor over it, tells you that it's a smart object. A smart object keeps all of the photographic information that came in with the piece of texture that you placed, so that if you want to edit it and edit it and edit it, it will try to keep it as close to the original as possible. Now because we've got it there and we don't want to move it anymore, if you right click over the layer and click rasterize layer, what that does is it loses all of that smart information and just turns it into an ordinary picture as part of your Photoshop document. The good thing about that is it doesn't take up as much space on your hard drive, and it means that if you're using lots of layers, the file would become really unwieldy and start to make your computer wish you would pack it up, really. So the fabric layer is placed. If we go back to the select menu, load selection, hat in capital letters down here, OK. Now we've got that. Now you could invert it and delete the pixels, but then if you had to edit it or wanted to change anything, then you'd be stuffed. So the best way to do it is to go to the layer menu, to choose layer mask and reveal selection, and there we have a rather beautiful police lady's hat. And if you wanted to, you could choose select those areas, expand them and place another silver texture underneath perhaps, or whatever you wanted to do. So that's pretty much how you do it.